What's up, Summoners? Riftbound has wrapped up its first week of city challenges in China for the Spiritforged meta, and we had a Runes and Rift online tournament, and the tournament data is interesting to say the least, so let's get right into it. For the city challenges, there's a few things I expected, and a few things I was pretty sure of, a few things I'm a bit surprised at. Firstly, Draven being statistically the best deck is like the least surprising thing ever, right? The deck is insane. There's not much to talk about. I plan to expand on this a bit more in my tier list video. Draven is definitely the deck to beat in set 2. Kai'Sa being at 25% is initially a bit surprising due to, the set being new. You're like, oh, they're going to try new legends. Some of the new stuff is strong, but the Chinese seem to really like this deck. And while I do think Kai'Sa is still very good, I'm not convinced it's one of my very top options in set 2. Maybe best one changes that consideration, but I'm not so sure, right? It's still an A tier deck. Don't take this as me saying it's not. Just want to add that in there. Those sentiments are pretty heavily echoed with Yi being third in representation, to be honest. Once again, another deck that's still pretty good. Camel, Punch First, Not So Fast, Thwonk, Akshan are still all very good cards, but I'm not sure this is like third best deck in the meta, if I'm just being brutally honest. Irelia, excellent deck. I'm very happy to see her up here. Nothing really much more to add there. Now Victor, a lot to say here. Specifically, the spell control unitless version has been the talk of the town. I'm mostly convinced this deck is fake, and this is a certified fluke showing. As soon as they flip over Blue Victor, you know what variant it is, and you can adjust accordingly. In testing, there's so many turns where it's just like play, recruit, pass, and decks like Draven, Fiora, Annie, Misfortune, Yasuo, Ezreal, Sivir, Irelia, Kai'Sa, all get to do broken shit, dude. And it's like, I'm over here tapping a mana and playing a fucking recruit. Like, come on. I don't care that you get to play all the best removal spells. You do not have that much equity into Draven. I'm a hater. I'm not a believer. And if I get proven wrong, I get proven wrong. But I am not a believer. Rant over. Annie coming up a little bit in Chinese rep. They finally read the legend. Anywho, Yi being so popular here is why I'm pretty sure Annie is not as popular. I recognize Annie might not be the best decision into Yi, so you can't really fault the representation, but I do still think Annie is insane. Set 2, more to come on that on my tier list, of course. Not much to comment on in the rest of the rows. I am surprised to see Fiora, Ezreal, MF, and Lucian represented so low. I think these decks are better than people are giving credit for, probably just underplayed and maybe just trying to figure out the list, and I'm positive we'll see more representation there, especially from Lucian and MF. Also, no Sivir here? As for Western tournaments, Runes and Rift hosted an online TCG Arena tournament with 38 players, which aligns much closer to what I expected of the Spiritforged meta in terms of top cut representation, with Ezreal and Draven making up 50% of the top 8, with one of each of Fiora, Lucian, Sivir, and Kai'Sa making up the rest. This is a lot closer to what I expect a top 8 to be in the post-Spiritforged meta, with the exception of Draven not being 40% of more of representation, if I'm being honest. And the breakdown is as follows. So, in first place, we have Nuroth with their Sivir deck list. This looks pretty close, actually, to what I have cooked up on my own time. I really like the Annie style of Merchant, Scrap Heap, Zon Warren's going first. Quite a few one-ofs this deck draws so many freaking cards. You're gonna see them, right? I think Shovel is pretty okay in this list. I'm still testing. I like Mind Splitter for the top end, and Rasa's, by turn 3, 4, you're gonna end up playing Rasa for either 1, 2, and oftentimes free. It's just the power, right, which turns out to be net neutral because of your legend ability. This deck draws so many cards. You get access to the most broken color in purple, and debatably the second best color in orange. Just overall really good deck. I do think, side deck is where you have a lot of flexibility. I'm not sure On the Hunt is the play, but once again, you two good colors. You have a lot of flexibility here. I think Sea Monkey is probably one of my favorite 2-drops right now in orange. You get to play Sabotage, Mind Splitter, there's not much else to say here. Fizz is super good. I think Sivir is going to be a really good legend for next set, and this is a good deck list. I like it a lot. And in second place, you have one of my testing partners and homies, Gopher, with Fiora. I really like Fiora going into set 2. I will say Yone is in fact a troll. He did not read this card and realize that it is in fact open battlefield, and this card has been removed for those who have been giving him shit in the discords about it. I promise it's being changed. But otherwise, yeah, the list does what you'd expect, right? Plays equipments, moves around really fast, makes units mighty, gets free power and free runes. With the Chosen Champion, you have the ability to accelerate, set Brawler. Dead Bloom Predator is still the premier orange boss monster. Kiana with Deflect and being able to go plus with the Conquer. A lot of good stuff happening. Battlefields, I think, are still being tested, but yeah, it's Fiora. Not much else to say. In third place, we have Tarot King playing Lucian. This deck is super cool. I think this is like the premier aggro deck for next set. It goes super fast, plays a lot of good cards. Red orange is really good. You get Kaisa, you get Kiana, you get Rengar. Lucian is super good. You get all the best equipment. Relentless Pursuit is a hell of a card. You get some really good gear. Punch First, Angle Shot, Bone Shiver. You get Akshan, you get Camel, you get Bryn here for the side. You get Hex Drinker for Deflect. You stack those. All of your equipment gives Assault. Yeah, this deck has a lot going for it. And with the Windswept Hillock, you get ganking, so your units do a lot all the time. I really, really like Lucian, and I think this deck is going to continue to perform all the way through set 2. I personally tend to put Lucian a little higher than other people do. I do think this deck is a little underexplored compared to where a lot of people are putting it right now, but I do think we'll continue to see it evolve. I do like how this is built. It's a little different than how I have it built, but you can kind of see Tarot King really values just going as aggressively as humanly possible, as fast as humanly possible with the Monkey and Wallop engine, with the low count of challenge, maxing out on Kaisa, maxing out on the really good equipment and going lower count on the worst equipment like Warmogs, not maxing out on Bone Shiver. It's kind of expensive, right? Yeah, not much else to say. This is a good looking list. And in fourth place, we have one of my favorite content creators for Riftbound, Silent Knight, playing Draven. I was watching him play all day for this tournament, and he was doing exceptionally well. He's playing a pretty unique build of Draven with Ezreal, Fizz, some hard bargains in the main. He's playing Gem Jammer. I'm not sure if he's trying this out, and he has some Ferris Forerunner in the main. The side is pretty interesting too. Otherwise, it's Draven. It's gonna do what Draven wants to do, right? You get to play the most broken cards in the game. You play the best card in the set, Overzealous Fan. You play Spinning Axes, Longsword, Blood Rush. I'm curious what his thoughts are on Blood Rush versus Cleave. You still get to play all the good anti cards as well, right? Fight or Flight, Ride the Wind, Stack Deck, Rebuke, right? Darius, Kaisa. It's Draven, right? Now the side deck is very interesting. Both Angle Shot and Thermo Beam, absolutely petrified of the heavy gear decks. So I'm curious what his thoughts were on the matchup spread. Maybe thinking a lot of Ornn, Lucian, maybe some Irelia. So I'd love to get his thoughts. Maybe I can kind of poke the bear, shoot him a DM on Twitter. But yeah, this looks like a Draven deck. The only thing is one stack deck. I love stack deck. This card is broken. I'm a big Pot of Duality enjoyer from Yu-Gi-Oh! And this card reads like Pot of Duality, but better, because I don't show you my cards and I can still do whatever I want. The only thing is it's not free, I guess. Whatever. Otherwise, it's Draven, right? Congratulations to him. He performed exceptionally. And in fifth place, we have Tiger Death on Ezreal. Now, Ezreal is absolutely positively insane. This deck draws 1 trillion freaking cards, and it has infinity runes, and it has blue and purple, and we all know how good purple is, so Ezreal can get very scary. Now, the one thing that is good is sometimes you draw a lot of cards to do nothing. So, and I'm sure Tiger Death had a couple of those games where you just draw a lot of cards, and then you're like, oh, well, great, I drew 50 cards, and I'm doing nothing. That said, Ezreal can be very scary. I'm curious on his thoughts of this build versus like the Time Warp build where you're playing like 2 Time Warps, because there is a build where Time Warp is live like turn 4, and theoretically you could go like turn 4 Time Warp, turn 5 Time Warp, and you're just very far ahead in card advantage, points race, and things can just get wicked. I do know it's one of those hyper-specific combos, and maybe that's not particularly attractive, but just curious on his thoughts. Otherwise, yeah, it's an Ezreal deck. You get to play some broken blue cards, some broken purple cards, and we all know how good purple is. You get access to the Watchers, the Singularity, Fizz, Wages of Pain, Hard Bargain, Morbid Return, Rebuke. The signature spell is obviously very good, and you get, Sack Deck, Called Shot, and Called Shot is effectively free in this deck, right? So it makes it even better. You get to play a really good Battlefield and Vile Maws because you just don't care. It doesn't impact you whatsoever, so... And in 6th place, we have Mitchell on Kai'Sa, specifically Mech Kai'Sa, and I do think going into set 2, that is the proper way to play Kai'Sa. This build looks pretty similar to how I have been theory crafting Kai'Sa for set 2. I do think Triple Darius is the way to go. I'm not sure that Yordle is still the way to play. Still a lot of testing to be done. I do think at this point in time, I'm going to be on 3 retreats, and I think Bryn here might be a main deck card. Not sure. Maybe I'm giving away the sauce. Who knows? But yeah, it's still Kai'Sa. I do still think Kai'Sa is an A-tier deck. Obviously, he performed very well with it into a field that is obviously very heavily Draven, very heavily favored into the purple decks. So yeah, Oro's still good. Kai'Sa's still good. Who would have thought playing Noxus Hopeful for 2, next turn going Darius Cleave for 10 might into any battlefield was a good proposition. And guess what? You still get to play Watcher. You still get to play Cathian Rain discounted. You still get to play Time Warp discounted, which he's not on, but the statement rings true. Playing cards at a significant discount and getting access to all of the best removal in the game is still pretty good. In 7th place, we have Barfling on another Draven. It looks like this is a bit more of a standard Draven on the Merchant Scrap Heap Zon Warren's game 1. Now he is on Obelisk, which is interesting, and Rasa. So what I would imagine is we're on Rasa Merchant Scrap Heap game 1 with Zons, and we're just doing a whole bunch of filtering, so our Rasas are super cheap or effectively free, and then that gives us a lot of ability to freely cycle and side, going into 2 and 3 potentially. Otherwise, yeah, it's Draven. You have a lot of flexibility into this deck, and you also are on Get Excited, which is interesting. I'm very curious how this performed for him, because it's discard Rasa, deal 10, I guess, or you just have flexibility to discard whatever and just have general damage. I'm just not sure how much I believe in this card in a meta full of fight or flights or hidden tide turners and stuff like that. So I'm not sure. Obviously it performed well enough for him to get top 8 at a tournament with a bunch of really good players and really good decks. So and it's at the end of the day, it's still Draven, right? It can't be that bad. Let's just be brutally honest here. And then 8th place, last but not least, we have another Ezreal player, Mashallah. It looks like they are playing more of a high rolly kind of Mind Splitter, Rasa, Thousand Tail, a little bit more removal with the Singularity, Shovel, more copies of Wages, less copies of Arcane Shift. We have the Downwell in the side. That's interesting. Otherwise, it's pretty similar, right? You get all the good purple and blue cards, playing some Card Sharp, maxing out on the copies of our Ezreal, and yeah, just the rest of our good purple and blue cards. I wonder what the thought on Downwell is. Maybe against, stuff like Irelia, maybe, where, they take multiple turns, set up a bunch of gear, then play out the Irelia, equip it, then try to just wax your board. And then you just do like a really hard punish, or like Draven, where it's like multi-turn setup where they go like fan into a battlefield, Draven, hide a card, and then you just downwell them for the net worth. That's probably the theory if I had to guess. It's pretty good, right? Downwell's a hell of a card, and in Ezreal, you get so much value out of things that you just don't care about how expensive it is, right? So it's probably a pretty good theory, I'm sure. Obviously, it got him here, so it can't be too bad. Plus, you get Fizz. Things are cheap. You play stuff for cheap or effectively free in this deck all the time, so Yeah. That wraps up our top 8 from the Runes and Rift online tournament. What are your thoughts on Spiritforged? I'm going to be posting a tier list video hopefully next week or the week after, trying to dissect my thoughts as I do more testing with my testing group, play some more paper game, and really just try to flesh out what I think the meta is going to be, the power of legends, and so on and so forth. So comment, like, subscribe, do the YouTube things. You know how it goes, and I'll see you in the next one.